New.
The thing is, the Brotherhood has a lot of grassroots support. Like, just a lot of people support the Brotherhood, which is interesting because they never succeeded at doing what Iran did with their Islamism, right? As a response to going back to as a response to what do we do? We're a nation state now. Okay, do we just how do we deal with this as a part of the world that has a kind of Islamically oriented viewpoint, and the Brotherhood being one of the responses to Western encroachment, both material and ideological, um, among other secular ones of pan-Arabism, socialism, etc. And that was very much it's like hey yo, this is our thing, you know, this is the Islamic lands, these are the Islamic countries. We're gonna do this based on that. They never got to do it until now. Um, the way Iran did, nor were they ever able to build a network like the Axis of Resistance, where they would have non-state actor allies.
I mean,
So
the
you
thing
would
is,
think, yeah,
that's interesting, and that is kind of, this might be tangential, but I guess we'll take the.
I don't know if I with my ADHD was taking that in a weird
No,
direction or something.
not you. I might be going on a tangent right now.
Yeah.
I'm just taking the liberty to do
Oh
it.
yeah. Sure.
Right? I mean, you can argue Al Qaeda itself is a Brotherhood offshoot. Ayman al-Zawahiri, I think, has a bigger ideological imprint than anything as a second in command. Ideological and operational imprint on Al Qaeda than anything Osama did, except for finance and be the
Figurehead or the face,
figurehead,
face.
the more attractive figurehead. I mean, the guy is 6.5 feet.
Yeah.
He looks like
Yeah.
he looks like someone who's been coddled,
Yeah.
compared to Zawadi, who has spent time being tortured in Egyptian prisons already, or who has he's a very, I mean, I wouldn't say eloquent, but he's
He has this
cogent.
persona to him. Yeah.
Like he has speeches from even the 70s
Yeah.
in Egyptian prison where he's
Yeah.
able to articulate very effectively the perspective of his group.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Egyptians exporting him to Afghanistan and then him kind of
The Egyptians exporting him to he was
well, I mean, during the Soviet War, all these Gulf states and all these Middle Eastern states just offloaded all their prisons that had the extremists into Afghanistan.
he was imprisoned in Jordan, I think, right?
Was he?
Or maybe I'm tripping.
I
might be
thought.
confusing
I
it
mean,
with
we can
something else.
double check afterwards and maybe we'll correct ourselves later.
Yeah.
But I thought he was imprisoned following Sadat's
Okay, I'm probably tripping.
assassination.
Okay.
Right, and now, I mean, again, I might be totally my phone's on the thing, but yeah, yeah, I had to check real quick. But yeah, I think I believe maybe it might be Jordan. I'm not sure. I believe maybe it was
Egypt.
there was mass arrests of Brotherhood and a cleansing of the more fringe elements of Egyptian society in general during.
Did this coincide with when Sayyid Qutb was?
Yes, and that was the catalyst for Sadat being assassinated.
Mm.
That, and obviously Sadat's deal, I think Camp David, right, with Israel.
After 67.
That assassination and Hosni Mubarak's regime, his administration coming into power, they conducted a mass arrests. Sayyid Qutb himself, Ayman al-Zawahiri, and a bunch of these guys were tortured. Now, again, taking the liberty, maybe I'm wrong on all of this, and they were all imprisoned in some other country doing some other shit, running running slot machines in the back of a gas station,
Yeah. No, Qutb was in prison in Egypt for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm wrong about the
Zawahiri
time or
might
the
be,
reasoning, right? Because I really believe the hyper-militarization of Egypt starts with the assassination of Anwar Sadat. But I might be wrong on both of these guys specifically being imprisoned for that specific offense. But him going to Afghanistan and then the Brotherhood group coming around and coercing Osama into their legion from more standard Salafi Saudi groups. Abdullah Azam being the biggest name, right? I think Ayman al-Zawahiri and the Brotherhood carried out his assassination directly, and that was one of the reasons was to kind of reroute Osama towards their crew, have him get the limelight, but he is the financier of their ideological ambitions. So yeah, I mean, long story short, Al Qaeda has been able to export that all over Africa now, the Middle East, Yemen for a while, Syria, Iraq, all the way I think
West Africa.
West Africa. I'm not sure. West Africa is Boko Haram associated at all?
I think they ended up pledging allegiance to ISIS. Did they?
I think they do have Al Qaeda in Africa. I'm forgetting what they have like a specific acronym, but they've gone and
Al Shabaab, East Africa, Somalia.
And obviously 9/11. The impact that 9/11 has had on geopolitics, those acts of terrorism that Al Qaeda is engaged in, they have had reverberating effects on geopolitics for decades onwards. I think the Brotherhood has its imprints all over that, and I think it gets a pass because people were like, "Oh, Salafi Islam." Well, I mean, I'm not defending that either, but the Muslim Brotherhood distinct brand of Islam that they have exported, maybe not to America, maybe it's not here as much in the diaspora communities where you see Wahhabism or pro-Saudi propaganda more ingrained in our Sunni counterparts or our Sunni counterparts. I don't really know.
I would say there's a shift there, and you do have even here a lot of folks who support the Brotherhood, but are not necessarily. They may not be able to name, who Hassan al-Banna is, right? But they're cheering on the Arab Spring, right? That type of thing.
Yeah.
People are and that's where the Brotherhood was able to. They had that mass support base on the ground in Syria and in Egypt, and they're able to mobilize, right? So people here who have family back there, for example, you have people. That's why over here there was a lot of people who, throughout the Syrian civil war, were like, free Syria.
Yeah, I mean I think that is the ideological impact in a way also, where people don't even realize which line. I mean, not that should dictate
or what the equivalent.
Yeah. But yeah, I feel like Erdogan definitely has consolidated his power base right now for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
I think he made a deal with IMF recently. IMF made a deal with Turkey I think there was a lot of back and forth, and IMF was very happy with the tightening of money and austerity measures there.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is going to kind of put new life in his tenure.
For sure.
I think he already has, and he already has, I guess, a vision of grandeur.
Yeah, the neo-Ottoman Empire,
and of him as being the new Mehmet II.
Sultan Erdogan.
It has a nice ring to it.
That's crazy.
I mean, again, Bashar al-Assad wishes he had played his cards like Erdogan has. I'm not sure if he had the opportunity to, but he also did not have the strength in his person. He did not have the power vested within his character or his personality that Erdogan has managed to do in Turkey.
Yeah.
Right? So much power has become vested within the person of Erdogan that Bashar al-Assad, for the past 15 years before this uprising against him, which from the origin was organic and based around honestly some, very economic and ecological mismanagement. Some might be out of control, but honestly, that's how the cards are dealt. I mean, you were like, oh yeah, you're hungry, but sorry.
Yeah, that's just not how it works.
Yeah, or it's just not. It seemed for me, and again, this is where the sycophancy was cringy on. And today, when I found cringe yesterday, when I found cringe on some people who were like, "Hey, who are not able to see how this plays into Israel's greater plan. The cringe, also, I told you about the mixture of emotions. The cringe at this decade plus of sycophancy and I guess I don't know if it's an appropriate term.
No, I get it.
Slurping.
I get
Like
it.
slurping of like anything that just like, because why? Well, this we need to uphold, as in I'm paraphrasing what I found to be the general vibe. Like, I know this guy is a bad guy, but we need to publicly and even sometimes privately, for some reason, uphold this guy's virtue, because he is one of the he is one of the standard bearers currently of the resistance, and any pawn being the standard bearer. I mean, if he was the standard bearer of the resistance, then
Well, he was a figurehead, but the thing is, you revoke your, you lose your figurehead card from the axis of resistance when you kick out Ansarullah from the Yemeni embassy and replace them with the pro-Saudi government, just because you're trying to cozy up to the UAE.
And when was
you lose? That's it. As in, hey, we have to uphold this for the sake of, strength and backing the resistance, and he's one of our resistance leaders. The resistance leader himself sold the resistance out.
Yeah.
This happened, I don't know, last year, I think, at some point, or 2 years. It was not too long ago, right? Him trying to cozy up to the Gulf states and all of that. I mean, dude, you're not, at that point, you're a liability, right? When it's taking that much money to prop him up, just because you're in the hopes that, this guy is going to be useful in this anti-imperialist struggle. And it turns out that it's like, nah, he was using your help to stay afloat, right? And this ends up shooting the rest of the resistance in the foot. Iran, bad PR for them, bad PR for Hezbollah, because they're associated with I'm looking at it the other way around.
I mean,
right?
PR wise, it's one thing. I think and you're correct on that.
As in, they were supporting him and trying to hold up to prop him up, because they needed to get that supply line going. Ultimately, they're looking at kicking out Zionism for that part of the reason. That's been the thing since '79. And it's like, okay, cool. Thanks for keeping your land open for it. But now we're at war. He's not doing it. So I think that's where Turkey, Iran, Russia, and probably Qatar got together and were like, hey, how are we going to sort this out? Iran was probably like, yo, we're done with him. He's a liability. Russia was probably like, actually, you know what? There was an interview with Sergei Lavrov where he talked about this. I didn't watch it. I saw it. I saw the thumbnail. I watched the first 5 seconds of it, and then I got busy. But from what I read about it, it seemed like he was kind of also like, yeah, this isn't going to last, right? Turkey was like, all right, bet we know that these HTS guys are going in. We're going to take this SNA and go into weaken the Kurds. And Qatar was like, all right, Brotherhood, getting active. So
I saw a similar statement by, I think, Irani officials who were like, hey, we can't, while we're ready to support, we can't fight if your military is not willing to fight. And I think a similar statement from Russian officials came out, and it seems like from what I'm thinking out loud, he wanted to get out of this over the past year by making a deal through the UAE with Israel, with the US, that, hey, I'll relinquish my stake in this axis as long as my position is safe. And that is why he did not make a move into Golan.
Yeah.
But at one point, when he became invaluable to Iran and Russia, obviously being tied up now with increased funding. I mean, Biden going out the door is just putting out every penny he can.
And he thought they would still keep funding him.
So they have their hands tied, they're financially tied up, and soon they'll be seeing this as well. When well, we'll get into the natural gas pipeline now, but it seems like that deal that he was trying to broker, the U.S. might have, or in Israel, they might have played, footsie with him for a while, but they knew that he's of no value to them, and if he's no value to them, then you have nothing to offer us as well. Your days are numbered. At that point, your military generals, whoever it is, look, if they're sitting and waiting and watching, they can be bought. I mean, anyone can. They can be bought. They can be both with just dollars and ideology, power, anything. Because people around him knew. I mean, I'm hoping anyone who was associated with this knew that this was not sustainable.
Yeah.
And 10 years, 15 years of killing hundreds of thousands of people. Not him alone, but I can't believe that,
from the beginning of Hafiz al-Assad's time till, because that's what people's memory is of him, the people who didn't like him and the people who do like him. Is that Hafiz al-Assad came in, and for those who liked him, it's been stability since then, right? From the coups and regime changes and new constitutions and this and that. For the people who don't like him, the crimes go all the way back to then, right? The Hama massacre in the 80s when the Brotherhood first rose up.
Yeah.
So, hundreds of thousands, however many, whatever the case is,
Yeah, I mean, honestly, just the Syrian civil war itself, I mean, I'm guessing the numbers have be close to 1 million people.
The type of warfare that you're fighting in that kind of war, you're killing a lot of people one way.
The type of savagery that became associated with the Syrian civil war, honestly, I can't believe that he had nothing to do with it, or he was, a small variable in this. I believe, and I think a good transition. He should have been replaced within 3, 4, 5 years while trying to maintain whatever power structure they had in place.
Right.
And if they did not have that, then investing this time, resource, money, people into a machine, again, there's no less just feeding into the meat grinder.
Well, his military infrastructure was, other people from his sect, and within that sect, even his clan, right? So it was members from the Alawi community and his clan within that. It's hard to buy that out. That's why he did that.
I mean,
it's hard to buy that out, as in hard to get one of those people to coup him. And the military is what does this stuff there ever since, right? All these coups. So I don't know if Iran really had an in there to do that. And I think that's why they're like, shit, I mean, we got to keep the supply route open. We got to prop them up.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess the limitation of that plan was this unfolding. Yeah. Now, this makes Iran's position much more precarious. And I don't believe in, spreading panic. I'm not, I don't believe in spreading panic, but I do believe in contingencies, and not infantilizing our listeners, any listeners, people we talk to. Bro, if we're talking about this, let's just keep it serious, man. You don't need to PR me. There's enough HR stuff you hear at work. There's enough PR on the news. Human to human, you can't have a conversation about this topic without sycophancy or fandom. And it's kind of part of the issue with the resistance, diaspora resistance, expat resistance around the globe in Western Europe and the US, where just can't have an honest analysis of our position in this global infrastructure, this global financial infrastructure, and what is the best we can do to resolve that contradiction of allegiance. Right? The allegiance to personal interest and thus capital interest and imperial interest, along with our allegiance to, if nothing else, just humanity. As in, we see the oppression of people for the extraction of resources.
Yeah.
for the profiteering of a few companies, a few countries, and that alone, I mean, is honestly, that is a big radicalization factor for sure. But I feel today Iran's position is one of thinking, like, if you are someone who is part of the intelligentsia and consider yourself an intellectual, you're thinking, what realistically is, how solvent is this regime? And I don't mean regime in the pejorative. I don't mean regime in the pejorative. Yeah. How solvent is the Iranian state? And that is, I'm hoping we talk to a few of our friends and we get honest takes from that. Yeah. But I feel like even this question might be taken provocatively. Yeah. But right now I feel like the isolation of Iran that's going to be coming in the next few years, that will be unparalleled. This natural gas pipeline, this natural gas delivery that will start from the Persian Gulf, moving its way through Saudi and or a combination of Kuwait, Bahrain, through parts of Syria to Israel to Europe to Turkey. This will have the effect of silver to the gold that is the petrodollar. You've made natural gas now the supply chain concrete to Europe, cut out Russian natural gas exports to Europe, and the need for Ukraine, who is the biggest loser in this matter because Trump's president, they'll make a deal. Russia sees where the lining is, how the cards are being dealt right now. You can't see them wanting to sustain this effort either.
Wait, question. Who took the bigger out, Zelensky or Bashar al-Assad?
I don't know.
Or is it too early to tell?
I would say Zelensky. I think he was in D.C. or he was in the U.S. 2 days ago. Yeah. Next time he comes, he should not book a return ticket. In my estimation, and I think we've made a lot of predictions during this time, the past year, we're late to upload them. Hopefully we'll be uploading them better. We'll try. Yeah. But, we're trying. Hopefully Bilal can help us with this. We'll order some Marco's pizza for us. But, I think Zelensky, his position right now is, we're like going out the door. Biden with the pardon made it very clear what he had been doing, what he had personally been engaged with. I think at this point, I don't know how big of a Biden sycophant you have to be to not see that he personally was invested into the natural gas trade, and he was representing that class. Hunter Biden was not the only one profiting, and that I don't want to get into the laptop stuff or whatever, but this pardon and then throwing all this money at him out while he's walking out the door. Joe Biden has made that where Ukraine is a permanent pain point for Russia. Yeah. I think that will bring Russia back onto the table. Ukraine won't join NATO. They have a better person to deal with now with Trump, right?
So it's funny because Ukraine is the battlefield of a proxy war between Russia and the U.S., but also between Trump and Biden. Yeah. So the Sleepy Joe stuff is happening on U.S. TV, and it's happening between in Ukraine. Right? Just think about that, administration to administration. It's okay, no, we're not going to fund these guys. Yeah, we are going to,
I think that shows the weakness of the oil and gas lobby in this country in the face of capital. And I feel now that Trump has come back with a cohort of RNC insiders, with the mainstays of the party to kind of make sure he stays within the boundaries, stays aligned. And you're seeing that. I think this stuff will come back, regress to the mean, not go to the extremes like it might have before, where he's going to see Kim Jong Un, or
that was cool.
That is cool. I'm not saying. I feel like that those boundaries that he was willing to cross now will become he might be having to pull we might be reliving the Grover Cleveland, which is, I believe, the previous guy to have non-consecutive 2 terms.
Okay.
The only other president to have that.
Yeah.
And the issue was the first term he goes, he's popular. Second time he wins the popular vote, loses the electoral college, so loses on a fluke. Nice 4 years goes by, but he comes back the third term. He was popular the first term and relatively the second time he ran. Third time he runs, the paycheck, the bill comes, and now he's kind of screwed. Now people don't like him anymore, and his whole legacy is like, this guy's an idiot.
Damn.
This guy's a schmuck.
Yeah.
And I think Trump might be having to face that a little bit too this term. But as far as Russia, Ukraine, dealing with Putin, I think he might be able to secure, NATO. Ukraine won't be joining NATO. Russia will be able to secure some of the land advancements they've made. As far as the natural gas deposits that they found in Ukraine, and the ones that Russia, had been hoping to export to Europe through various ways before, it was through Ukraine, then through the different pipelines that they built, they can shut it. Now we can get natural gas and oil directly, from the Persian Gulf. We have, at least as a competitive balance for your natural gas. So you will either supply us this, or we will have this moderately priced natural gas coming from our client states in the Gulf.
Yeah.
With a supply line that is secure, we have treaties with all of these client gas stations. Saudi, Syria, and obviously Israel and Turkey. So that cuts Iran out of this equation completely, out of the Persian Gulf, as far as if there's an embargo, sanctions, how deep do we want to go into it? You are susceptible to everything now. Neighbors, except for Iraq, neighbors who are unhappy with you, or you don't have much capital by capital with, you can't do much for anyone now. You could prop Assad up. Well, now he doesn't need you, right? And Hezbollah can't supply them. Hamas. The leadership of these groups has been destroyed. There's no one much to do business with at the moment on either side. Pakistan, the State Department has made sure that the military junta there is going to toe the line to the T without remorse or recourse.
Well, now that Donald Blue is gone, you think Trump will bring Imran Khan back? They were cool. They got along.
Man, I've just tried my best to forget about Imran Khan like a lost scorn lover. Yeah. A secret that you just keep in your heart and don't talk about because you're too embarrassed.
Yeah.
It's just That is I don't like thinking about it. It makes me think of optimism and even worse, false optimism. It's not optimism of the will, it's optimism of the imagination. And that is kind of what we have indulged in with Bashar al-Assad to a bigger extent as a group. And now we are, we can do Imran Khan. And this is where the lack of strategization becomes a pain point. You have to cling on to these personalities. and only these cults of personalities, and which is, I don't mean, again, I don't want to sound like a naysayer or pejorative. These are great personalities on their own, but the lack of ideology is what will cause a lack of continuity, which is when there's a regime shift. Suddenly, oh, well, all hands in the air. We don't know what to do. How could this happen? We had tied our geopolitical project to the likes entirely for a decade plus of Erdogan and Bashar al-Assad and militias that were fighting the biggest imperial behemoth or imperial canine let loose on innocent people. That doesn't seem like the best, people to tie yourself with. So you're like, okay, well, did we strengthen our relationships with Putin over this time, or China over this time? And while I think there's definitely strides made in that department, the soft war, that's been repeatedly lost.
Yeah.
At home, at abroad, within their sect, within that war in that region, the soft war has been battle after battle, bungle after bungle, blunder after blunder.
Yeah.
People will describe it, defend it, whatnot. I mean, and I think this, in a more cynical way, and I'm not. This is just a joke. I think Ilhan Omar had a thing where she blocked arms sales to Saudi and Iran, based on principle, or something along that line. So people were like, well, hey, screw Ilhan Omar, she sucks, blah, blah, blah. My first question is, well, this is within a few couple of months, I think, or so, of Iran responding to the assassination of Qasem Soleimani by shooting down a Ukrainian commercial jet. And so my response to that was, bro, what are you doing with the weaponry you have already at your disposal? Well, I mean, if I gave you a nuke, what were you gonna do with it? Like, shoot it the wrong way into the ground? Like, you can't even handle the anti-air missiles right now without having to shoot down and do embarrassing shit.
Crazy.
Like, if I gave you a BB gun and you shoot yourself in the foot, I'm not giving you a Glock. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, well, speaking of that, right, and not there being issues there, that reminds me of another thing. I think Iran is laced with, one, networks of compradors, two, it is not as ideologically unified as a lot of times people make it out to be. I'm talking about even in the establishment. You still have the interests of capital working there domestically, right? And that will override principle to revolutionary you know what I'm saying, the principles of the revolution, right? And I feel like there's an issue there where that leaves room for a lot of personal interest to come into play.
It gives even if those personal interests don't supersede your ideological allegiances,
it's enough to sway it in some direction or another.
Especially at these times, when you have these blunders repeatedly, people start questioning, wait, do you know what you're doing? If you don't, bro, why am I going hungry? And it's not that simple. These financiers are not going hungry. The big businessmen are not going hungry. But these reverberations, this rekindling of old social issues, or the kindling of new social problems, become much louder. Much louder, much more volatile when you couple them with not economic hardship alone, but also sustained, constant economic strife.
That's the point of the maximum pressure sanction thing. Well, that was the point of the sanctions in the first place. And you see how effective that is.
Yeah. And, I mean, these
you have your comprador class, you cause economic issues, entice the comprador class with what? Whatever Netanyahu said in that one speech, Hollywood, beam Hollywood into Iran, the young
easy,
people.
That's
just like,
entice, will lax the money supply into your country. It'll be lower tariffs. I mean, as in like different carrots that you can dangle. But during this time, the only recourse that I believe Iran had was a closer affinity with China.
Yeah.
China. It made sense economically.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you saw what they tried doing with Russia after Ukraine, trying to strangle, and you saw what Russia's response was.
Pulled the reverse Uno.
Reverse Uno, but then completely coming together with China.
With China
and right now, I think Iran. It made sense, and I think maybe that is on the cards. One thing that seemed weird to me, and again, this is the slew of blunders. How did you decide to have elections after the assassination, allegedly, of your president, right? Yeah. During the middle of one of the biggest war efforts that you have conducted?
See, that is where you lean into your dictator stereotype. That's where you lean into the dictator trope. Yeah. Do you think that like doing like a martial law type of situation, not a martial law, but suspend elections and like make it just like
I mean, it have an interim government. Okay, I'm sure they have a chain of command after the president his helicopter crashed.
No, I think the parliamentary system that they have is like if something like that happens, it's like it snaps into an election or something like that. Well, it's weird.
They have to do something about that, I guess.
But that's why I said like you're stepping over like emergency powers or whatever. Like I think that's where you do it. That's where you.
I mean, they had the assassination then of Ismail Haniya.
Yeah.
In Tehran. Then you have all of the Hezbollah leadership decimated. And
well, all it took was that one assassination, right? You get Raisi out of there, and then you put the reformist in. Now, True Promise 2, True Promise 3. How long has it been? I forgot what True Promise 3 was supposed to be in response to.
But
I don't even remember.
Talk more about what True Promise was.
The Iranian missile barrage at Israel. That was called Operation True Promise. The first one was True Promise 1, True Promise 2. True Promise 3, where is that? True Promise 2 took a long time. I mean, you have your president assassinated, then you have this guest who was a president as well, assassinated. Dude, you gotta go like that. I feel like that's where there's a difference. If this had happened to the Israelis would have. The second one was
channeling at that time, or being like, hey, we'll attack some base here.
That was the first one. The first one. This was the second one. But I'm saying, when the Israelis responded for that, there was supposed to be a True Promise 3. It still hasn't happened. If you're not establishing that deterrence, then you're not setting a line. You're not setting a red line, and that's the issue. The red line had to be set. Yeah. We'll get to it.
And that's where I found it very funny. So many of the cohorts of the administration in this country, the fans, will be no voting, anti-voting, and just put their hands in their ear and just forget about it. And it's just not that I voted or anything like this. I've never voted for a Democrat or Republican for president.
No voting should apply there too. At this war time.
Yeah, as in wait, you're for no voting, but you did not. There's no one in the country that you actually isn't. It just made no sense where holding elections during this time and not having a proper contingency plan already in place or anything of that sort. It just makes it puts into question just what we are what is the seriousness of what do we understand how serious of an adversary we are against? And this is easy for me to say from my second room. I don't want to again downplay the efforts or what. It's the people that we are criticizing are also sitting in rooms. They're not on the battlefield. Mm-hmm. The people, and I'm talking about whoever the new guy who is the new Iranian premier right now, the president now.
Pezeshkian.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's not that guy is not on the battlefield. We can criticize him. As in me and you, as in people will be like, hey man, it's easy for you to give advice to the resistance or to this or that or talk about this when you're sitting in your room. Yeah, and the top people who our conversation is pointed towards or we're talking about right now are also sitting in very nice rooms. They're not the people on the field. They're not the people who've been fed to the meat grinder the past 15 years in this Syrian effort and whatnot. So this project, having to put a microscope on the project and what it looks like 5 years, 10 years from now. How do you escape the grip of global finance and circumvent the fact that you have been cut out from the greater Israel project from being anything of value, geopolitical value as far as your control of the Persian Gulf, groups like Ansarullah and the Red Sea who cannot interfere with this natural gas pipeline now going through Saudi and them. It'll be interesting to see what the plan is for the next 5 years.
Forward. Yeah. Personally, with this situation, I'm not really I'm refraining from thinking like this is the end of it, or that this is the start of a glorious new era, which is what I see on both sides. I think the next few days we'll see what happens. Israel has invaded Syria, right? That's obviously it's terrible, but the dynamic has changed, the equation has changed. Personally, I hope that what you have now in Syria is, now that they are being attacked by Israel, it shows them the necessity of aligning with the Axis, and that maybe keeping the supply line open was one of Iran's terms in the negotiations. That we have God knows how many tens of thousands of fighters in Iraq mobilized to the border. Look, see, we can do it. They won't come in if you keep the supply line open. That may have been a card on Iran's end to present to the Turks.
Yeah.
Right, because you saw the Abu Azrael, that big bearded guy, the father of the angel of death or whatever. He was there with I think Kataib Imam Ali, one of the Hashd al-Shabi, the brigades that the people who whooped ISIS ass, right? He had like a squadron or whatever military unit, and they had gone to the border, and you see videos of mobilizations of just like thousands of soldiers and jeeps just going to the Syrian border in Iraq. And he was giving a speech and he was like, look, if say the Zainab shrine gets touched, we're not going to let that happen again. We're not going to let her get violated again. But we're not going to go into Syria like a gang, because we're not a gang. If the foreign minister of Iraq says that we got to go in, then we'll go in. He's saying that to his people who are amassed at the border. And I feel like that's a message. That's a loud and clear message. That was like I think a day before the takeover was like fully complete, or maybe it was maybe a couple days, 2-3 days after HTS started leaving Idlib and sweeping the country. So I feel like that was kind of where you can see it happen now that Israel has invaded the rest of the Golan, where Abu Muhammad Jawlani is from. He might see the necessity to get with the Axis and push them out.
Maybe so, and definitely, this I agree with you. This might
Think about that though. My bad. Sorry. I just have to emphasize this.
No, continue.
The Muslim Brotherhood wanted to, 1920s, 1930s, whatever started. They wanted to, get a Islamic government, a government based on Islamic ideas. They had a party, whatever. They were never able to do it. Iran managed to do it. 2024, in 1979, 2024. Imagine this, bro. You have the Muslim Brotherhood. They did it in Syria. And now you got Sunni and Shia militias or whatever. United front. There's a new member of the Axis of Resistance. That would be crazy anti-imperial solidarity along Islamic lines in the way that you saw somewhat along pan-Arab lines. And I think some of those countries at that time saw the necessity for the pan-Arab thing because of it was so fresh after their decolonization, I guess. And so I feel like this situation might kind of push everybody to work together for their own territorial integrity. But then on the bigger scale, this goes to what the Ansarullah spokesperson said. Is like, yo, Muslim Brotherhood has what the letter said. It was reading that letter really changed my outlook on this. He was like, this is a historic moment for the Muslim Brotherhood. You have the support of the masses of the people in the Muslim world, damn near. Everybody hates Bashar al-Assad. You're being invaded by Israel. You have to do something about it. And if you do something about it, we will support you. That means Ansarullah doing what? The same way they're supporting Gaza, right? Probably more strikes. We're going to probably start striking the Golan where the Israeli military is. I don't know. Hezbollah would get rejuvenated. The supply line is open, let's say, hypothetically. That's a stronger axis of resistance than the one with Bashar al-Assad then. Because he was a weak link. That link on the chain was getting rusty, like we said.
And you can see an isolation of Saudi in this.
Well, Saudi is still where it's stuck.
Saudi is the smaller Gulf states of like Kuwait.
They still,
UAE to an extent, Oman to an extent, but a slightly more sideline position than maybe they might have found themselves a decade ago.
Yeah.
But I think, we're going to be diving, I'm hoping we can dive more into this, more into kind of the stakeholders that are losing domestically in Syria, and by that I mean who have kind of already invested their money over the past time, their expediency, the past 50 years for Bashar al-Assad and his father. What economic stakeholders? I'm hoping we can discuss that more.
It's a lot that went down the drain. A lot that went down the drain.
The drain, and
for a lot of people.
I think Syria, 15 years onwards, so many lives, so much time, so much money, so much, just human beings, man, lost. I think at the end, the only consensus, anything that changed, any consensus that anyone reached, and I feel like right now when you're talking about it, the actual, you hope that the hatred of Zionism can maybe unite people in the region.
The hatred and the existential threat of it.
The one thing that has aligned everyone from Russia to Iran, just Qatar, was Bashar al-Assad. You suck. That is one thing that has united from the FSA to HTS to Hezbollah to Ansarullah to Iran to Qatar, even people domestically in the US, in Russia, they all think you were a giant waste of resources. And the only issue I have today with anyone is at least us not knowing when we were pouring resources, time, money, and energy into this as a group, we should have had the recognition of the actual caliber of this person, as I'm sure some of the stakeholders might have already had. And this is, I think, when you zoom out and a little bit, you realize what has transpired here over the past 2-3 days is the decision makers, the stakeholders in the game, from the representatives of the elites, the financiers, and I'll preface this, or I'll put a footnote this by saying anyone whose feelings are hurt will exempt your country of choice from this equation. You see this conglomerate coming together and deciding this 15 years, the war game that we've played, it was centered around the existence of Bashar al-Assad and him alone. And with him out of the equation, we do not know what to align around or against at this moment. So the game is over, and we can come to a mutual agreement on how to progress until the next one starts. With maybe a different strongman in a different country. Who will that be? Will it be Erdogan? Will it be MBS? Will it be Egypt or Iran? That stand. Let's see.
Yeah, I think the next several days are gonna clarify a lot, and I'm very curious to get. Julian Assange, now that you're free, please leak the information on what happened in those negotiations. Leak like the meeting minutes or something if they took minutes, because I really am curious as to what that process was like.
What was the process?
The negotiations between these regional powers at this time. Like what those conversations were like. What were the jabs thrown back and forth? What was, and not for the sake of entertainment, but for the sake of like, that is like real time, diplomatic war, but negotiating, right? Like what is being traded, what cards are being played, and then reverse Uno'd, and then no, do it this way, no, let's do that. Okay, you give us this. Like, it would just be very interesting to see what was proposed, what worked, what didn't work, where the leverage was, who had what leverage, and I don't know if we're ever going to know that. Although, I mean, the history books do talk about these things of, similar kinds of things that have happened in the past, when they find out later about different negotiations. I think Sykes-Picot was leaked by Lenin, was it? Something like that? Or am I just like...
Repeat that?
Sykes-Picot? The Sykes-Picot Agreement? Did Lenin leak that?
I actually do not know. I don't know.
Lenin, I think, leaked something. Anyway, like, that's not the point. That's anecdotal.
Yeah.
The point is, I think the next few days are going to uncover a lot. And we'll see. Honestly, it's a dynamic situation. And it's been, 200 plus years since Napoleon's invasion of that part of the world. It's been about 100 years since World War I, and it has not been a very long time since these countries have came into existence from what was once the Ottoman Empire. It wasn't a long time ago that people from Palestine, Lebanon, Syria used to take the train between their lands, and these borders were placed there at a certain point. This nation-state thing was new to that part of the world. They were trying to figure it out. It has its ups and downs. There are decades where nothing happens, and weeks where decades happen. And I think this is one of those weeks where decades are happening. We will see how that plays out.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
We'll definitely, See how it goes next year.
Oh yeah. The year's almost over. That's crazy.